Hi, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Books and Beaches. So, I feel like I'm a little behind in this video, but we are here to talk about all of the books that I read in the month of March. And I am actually a little bit behind on everything from the month of March. I don't know why, but I feel like I didn't read as many books as I thought I did in the month of March. I didn't get to my spin books in the month of March, which are my books that I picked off my shelves to read, and my 12 books recommended by my 12 friends. And I didn't get to all of my booktuber recommendations in the month of March. So yeah, I don't know what was going on, but it is already, gosh, it's already April 4th, so I figured it's about time I get this filmed. I am still trying to catch up from getting back on track from vacation. We had a snow day in Wisconsin yesterday, kind of a crazy snowstorm that hit us. So yeah, I am just a little off, and I'm slowly, getting back to caught up here. So, like I said, it is time to talk about all of those books that I read in March, and yeah, let's just go ahead and jump in and get started. So, March was an overall decent month. Nothing that was like super stand out-ish, but nothing terrible or too terrible either. I say that now, but let's just go ahead and take a look. Now I have some of these books here. I know one of them I had to return to the library. Some I did an audio. And some I've done ebook because I traveled basically strictly with my Kindle while I was on vacation. So I will be including a lot of images here. But the very first book I finished in the month of March was Never Saw Me Coming, and this is by Vera Kurian. This one had been recommended to me by Audrey from Chapter and Converse for so long, and I am so thankful I finally got to it. Basic premise of this book is we have several university students who are invited to come to this university, basically like tuition free, to be a part of a study. And they are all part of this study because they are diagnosed psychopaths. And they basically in turn have agreed to be studied by a department in this university. And they wear what's basically like an Apple Watch or a Fitbit that's like tracking their moods, and they don't know the other people in the study until they realize that people that are part of this study start getting killed off. And then you are also getting the perspective of like several different students in this study. I found it to be very interesting. It did not go like in directions that I expected it to go. I don't want to give too much away about it because I feel like in all thrillers you shouldn't know too much going into it. And I'm just trying to remember because it feels like I read it so long ago, but I did give it a 4, and I really quite enjoyed it. So definitely listen to Audrey's recommendation on this one and pick it up if you're looking for a good like dark academia thriller for sure. After that, I picked up my March in-person book clubs pick, and that was The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. We did Memoir March, and I listened to this one. It was available on Everand, and in the beginning I was definitely interested. It's read by Michelle Williams, and I am really glad that Britney didn't read it because she did like the opening section of it, and I think that would have drove me nuts had she read the whole thing. And so I was very interested in hearing her story. And I think even though I was probably like spoiled for some of it because you hear about a lot of the things that I've like, because the book was so big in the media, like we heard about a lot of the things that were going to be revealed in this book. And so you have a better understanding of like what she was going through, back in the early 2000s. Like when she was shaving her head and all of those things. So you have a better understanding of like why she did some of those things. And the things that her family put her through were crazy. Like there's no doubt about it, about that. Just nuts. But this book could definitely have used a better editor, a better ghostwriter, because I don't think she had one. And it felt very disjointed. And there were definitely parts that she was out of touch. And I think that was the general consensus from our whole book club, was just, you know, yes, she went through all of these terrible things, but did she learn from it? I'm not quite sure. So there was that one. After that, I probably read the most disappointing book of the month, and this was one of the books I think I was the most looking forward to in the month of March. And this is one that I actually it was the first book that I participated in middle grade March for the month, and this was Coyote, Lost and Found, and this is by Dan, I think it's Guyman-Hart, and this was the highly anticipated sequel to the remarkable journey of Coyote Sunrise, which I read last year and loved. And this book felt so short. And I think everybody that I've seen review this book, and I was even talking to Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand, nobody's liked this book. And now granted, I've seen reviews on Goodreads and stuff that people did, but to be such a highly anticipated sequel of such an amazing book, it just fell short. And for me, I don't want to give too much away, because if you haven't read the first one, Coyote basically gets to go on another journey with her dad. I first of all had a really hard time with when they took their journey, because the whole premise of this book takes place right when COVID started, and they decided to take another journey on their bus, which was the whole premise of the first book. And I have a really hard time with putting this idea into a middle grade novel about jumping on the bus right when a pandemic is starting and traveling around the country. And so that was the first thing that just completely set me off in this book. And I was like, what are we telling young people? Now, granted, we've already lived through this, but I was like, there's no possible way that you thought that was a good idea. And just so many things from there that I don't want to say much more, because I don't want to spoil it if you are still looking to read this. But I think I've settled on giving this one a 2.5, because there were parts that were touching and I think there were good lessons, but at the same time, it just was such a letdown compared to what the first one was and what this one could have been. So there was that one. After that, I picked up a book that gets talked about a lot in some of the thriller groups that I'm in, and that ironically is going to be my May book club's pick. So I read it early before we even picked it for our May book club, and that is Saving Noah by Lucinda Berry. Now, this book comes with a lot of trigger warnings, so be sure to look those up before you even look into it. But we are getting the perspective of a mother who, her son basically gets, I'm trying to find the best way to describe this, gets convicted of SAing. I'm trying to find the best way to describe this for the YouTube community, of some young girls that he coaches in swimming. And it kind of goes through what their family now is dealing with in this process of him. And you're getting kind of multiple different chapters of him while he's in a facility that he, is required to be at, and then what the family is going through, what that has done to their marriage, and how it affects their youngest daughter that they have, or because they have 2 children. And there is a lot of other things that this book deals with. So like I said, look into the trigger warnings. I don't want to lay them all out here. It's a lot to deal with in one book. I'm looking forward to talking with this one to my book club about it. I think it'll be some interesting discussions, especially for something that happens at the end of the book, which I definitely don't want to spoil here. There were things that are revealed that I'm curious if they took them the same way that I did. So I rated this one a 4. I think with the subject matter, it's super hard to rate it a 5. And I've seen that in a lot of the groups too. It's like, what did I just read? How do I talk about this, etc. So it is definitely a tough book to rate and a tough book to read. So after that, trying to move on to a little bit of a, not necessarily a happier book, but not so rough of a book. I picked up another middle grade. This one I will talk a little bit more in the middle grade March read like a booktuber vlog that I'm gonna have coming as soon as I finish it, because like I said, I'm a little bit behind in some of my March goals. But this was a book recommended by Krista from Books and Jams, and this was The Lost Year by Catherine Marsh. And wow. Spoiler alert, I gave this one a 5. Like I said, I'll talk more about it in that video. But this was a book being told between two different perspectives. We have a young boy living with his great-grandmother and his mom in 2020, I believe. And then we're getting timelines back into the 1930s in Ukraine, and then the 1930s in New York, and kind of seeing the issues between Ukraine and Russia and a lot that was happening during the famine. And so it was a time period I didn't know a lot about, and what a unique experience to read about it from a middle grade perspective. So like I said, I'll talk more about it in that video. It won't be up quite yet, but you will see that coming soon. Fingers crossed. I gotta finish those books. So all right, after that, on my ride down to my vacation, because we had a 17-hour car ride one way, totally worth it. Totally worth it, and you will see that in my vacation vlog. I finished listening to actually I have a copy of it, The Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. My lights are totally gonna wash this out here. This had just recently been recommended by Jen at The Bookish Blonde, and I think I've had this sitting on my Audible shelf forever, and then I had just hauled this not too long ago, so I said, what a perfect time, and I finished listening to it on the way down. Definitely a unique perspective. We have a couple that basically has killed together, and so they go out and they have killed women together. And in the start of the book, we find out that one of the women has been kept alive and only killed recently, and so they kind of try to frame it on a serial killer that had been in years past, and I can't think of how long ago it was, and they like frame it as if he has returned. And the thought process that this couple goes through to make this happen is just wild, and the way their kids get involved, not necessarily like in the murders, but in suspecting things that they're doing and how that gets twisted. It was definitely an interesting read. I ended up giving it, I ended up giving it a 4. I feel like, and now I'm trying to remember because I have car brain, and I feel like I was a little let down by the ending. But yeah, there was a lot that went on with their daughter, and just different friends and the way they all got connected. So really it was a good read for sure, and a good listen. I think the audio narrators did a really nice job, and I am glad I ended up picking it up, especially after hearing Jen talk about it. So if you're looking for a good thriller recommendation, I definitely think this one would be something to give a try. So there is that. And then the final book that I finished in March, I started a few other ones while I was on vacation. Like I said, I only brought my Kindle, but the one I did end up finishing while I was on the beach, I do have a physical copy of, is Kill for Me, Kill for You, and this is by Steve Kavanaugh. I had a copy of this on NetGalley, and so I decided to pick it up on the beach. I picked up something else that I'm working on for a different project, and just needed a thriller to kind of quicken up the pace a little bit, and I ended up really liking this one. We have two women who have decided the best thing for their current situations is to basically trade murders. So they meet in a grief group, and they both have lost children. And so, and basically the reason that their children are gone, like the people that have killed their children are still alive, and they think that the only way that they're going to get over or be able to move on is to be able to get rid of the people that took their children from them. And so they make this pact of, you know, if you kill for me, I'll kill for you. And it takes you on such a wild ride from there. I had no idea what to expect. You know, I think just hearing that, I assumed like, oh yeah, okay. And it is so much more than that, but I don't even want to spoil it because there's just so much more to the story. And there were definitely things that I was like slightly skeptical about. So I ended up giving it a 4, maybe like 4.5. But I really enjoy everything I've read by Steve Kavanaugh so far. So I look forward to like what else I can pick up. Like I read 13 and I know there's a lot more in the Eddie Flynn series that I could pick up, but yeah, it just, there's a lot of different places that this one goes, and I would highly suggest you pick it up. So those are, like I said, all the books I picked up in March. I thought I read more. It felt like I read more, but I also was just kind of enjoying everything that was going on vacation and stuff as well. So there will be lots more to come on things that I was planning on getting to in March. But what did you pick up in the month of March? Anything that I should be adding to my TBR list? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. As always, if you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.